Hi, Mike Filipov here from PracticeGuitarNow.com, and in this video I'm very excited to bring to you a special guest interview on how to practice guitar. So far on this channel it's just been me sharing my ideas with you on how to practice, and I also wanted to bring out another world-renowned authority on this topic. And I'm very happy to share with you my exclusive interview with Tom Hess, who is definitely one of the top experts in the world on how to turn ordinary people into awesome guitar players quickly. And for those of you who may not know, Tom Hess has also been my guitar teacher for many years, and I attribute a whole lot of my musical achievements to his teaching and coaching. It was awesome to meet with Tom Hess, and I asked him a whole bunch of questions on the topic of both practicing and becoming a great guitar player in general. And he had a lot of great things to share. And in fact, the interview turned out to be so long that I'm going to break it up into several sections and upload one part of the video at a time to this channel. So for now, here's part one. Enjoy. Alright, I'd like to begin by discussing the topic of natural talent. I wanted to ask your perspective on this issue, both as your own playing developed and also as you have seen the concept applied to the students that you have taught.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the subject of natural talent can only result in a negative mindset, okay? Because no great guitar player goes around saying, I'm a great guitar player because I was born great, I have all this natural talent. Whether it's true or not, if they have natural talent isn't really the issue. They don't credit that as the reason why they've developed these great skills over time. So typically the people who talk about natural talent are those who feel that they don't have any. And the problem there is if you go around with a mindset that great guitar players must have natural talent, but I don't, then where does that leave you? I mean, where does that leave you in your motivation, in your determination, in your belief in yourself, and what you think your potential is? So the whole topic really can only lead to something negative in the person's mind if they feel that natural talent is something that is a prerequisite or only something that gifted people have or something like this. So from the beginning I never really believed in the concept of natural talent, and even when some people would talk about it I just rejected the idea because I wasn't interested in whether the concept of if one has natural talent is true or not. I was only interested in what is the consequence to me or to someone I might be working with or teaching if that person or I believe that there is such a thing as natural talent, but we just weren't born with it. Okay? So if we move away from that topic of natural talent and whether we have it or not and just focus on what is it that we need to do in order to develop the skills that we want to have so that we can play how we want and write music how we want and do the musical things we want to do. So really, that's basically my position on natural talent. Just reject the issue and just focus on, what do we have to do now? What are the steps involved to get where we want to get to? And, what are the reasons why we want to get there? And how is that actually going to be implemented?
Very cool. Thanks. Okay, I wanted to ask you more about your experience of learning to play guitar. Basically, can you go in a little bit of detail on how old were you when you started to play guitar? And do you think that the general issue of one's age has any impact on one's potential to become a great guitar player?
Well, I started playing guitar at the age of 13, and I suppose for me personally that was a good age. Had I started before that age, I probably wouldn't have been very focused. I didn't really have the intense desire yet at the age of 10 or 11 or whatever. So 13 was good for me. I think maybe if I would have waited longer, I would have had a belief that, oh, it's too late for me, I'm too old, I can't learn all that stuff. The truth is that you can be any age and start learning to play. So whether you're 8 or 80, I mean, you can learn to play. Do you have some type of small advantage to learn when you're younger? Yeah, probably. But again, this goes back to what we talked about with the natural talent issue. This whole question of what age should you start? Am I too old to begin playing? This only leads to something negative. Okay? People who start playing guitar at 10 years old usually don't grow up and think to themselves, I started playing guitar too early or I started playing guitar too late. It's usually people who start playing in their later teens, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and now they have this complex of, oh, I'm too old, I should have started when I was 7 or, or 17 or whatever. And, where does that lead? It only leads again to a disempowering belief that we can't do it. I'm too old to do this. I would have learned better or absorbed information more easily when I was younger. So how does that help to even ask the question, really? I mean, I'm not criticizing you asking me, but I know you ask because everyone is asking you about this question. So, and people have asked me the same question, am I too old or whatever? And no, the answer is no, you're not too old. And the other thing is, if you're going to dwell on how old you are when you start, and this is something we can't do anything about. So, it is what it is. You want to learn, you can learn. You just need to go out and seek the source, the teacher or the mentor or whatever, who's going to help you to define what your goals are, devise a plan to help you reach those goals, and then hold your hand along the way to get you there. It basically comes down to that.
Very cool. When you were learning to play guitar back in your younger years, did you ever have periods of time when you thought that your guitar playing progress was slow or not as fast as you would have liked it to be? And if yes, then what have you done at that time to get past such periods?
Yeah, I think everyone goes through that where you feel like you're not making progress very fast, and that I think you feel that way for two reasons. One, either because you really aren't making much progress and you're at a plateau, or sometimes when we grow in a more broad way instead of in a deeper way, it can feel that way, that we're not making a lot of progress. So, for example, if you're focused on something specific, maybe it's a new technique you're trying to develop, or something with phrasing or vibrato or playing fast or whatever, you can usually measure or notice those changes as you go deeper into that skill and develop it. It's easy to see that things are developed. But when you're going more broadly, for example, when you're focusing like in a geometric way on all of these skills together, or you're working on taking the existing skills that you have and trying to apply them to real musical situations, or trying to integrate the skills together, you're not necessarily getting better at any of those individual skills, but you're getting better at using the skills and applying them and connecting them together. You're tying it all together. And very often, when you develop in that way, it's not as easy to measure, or it's not as obvious to see the progress happening along the way. Over time, you'll notice it and you'll see it. You'll realize that you're putting it all together and things are going smoothly overall, but it's not as obvious. So that's the first aspect. The second thing is that in my younger years, when I started playing guitar, I didn't have a guitar teacher, so I was doing everything on my own, and not having a clue about what I was doing. I would, this was before the internet even, so I'd subscribe to all the guitar magazines that were out at the time, and there were several. I'd hang out with all my friends who knew, more than I did, and I would learn from wherever I could, but I didn't have the ability to take lessons with a teacher in those early years, and that really slowed me down. Most people think that you go to a teacher because that teacher is going to give you information, that they're going to tell you, show you things that you didn't know before. Okay, but that's not really the role of a teacher. The role of the teacher isn't to share with you things that you may not have read before, seen before, experienced before. It's really to take all of this information, and there's a lot of it out there, and even more now with the internet. So all this information available, but what do you do with all that stuff? How much of that stuff applies to you right now? How much of that stuff really applies to what your specific challenges or goals are? And then, most importantly, what is the order in which those things should be done? So that was a big problem that I had, was not necessarily a lack of information, but a lack of knowing and understanding, what do I do with that information? How do I establish clear goals for what I want to do? What are the challenges? That's something that I really needed a teacher to help me with that I didn't have then. The other thing is, you don't know what you don't know. Okay? So at the time, you think you know what your goals are, you think you know what the problems and the challenges are, but really you don't have a clue. Okay? Not until you're really, really advanced, do you start to really understand and have real clarity on being able to identify a problem, diagnose what the causes are of that problem, and then deal with those causes. Most people who aren't very, very experienced or haven't taught lots and lots of people, they just treat the symptoms of the problem. They kind of wander from thing to thing, whatever they're feeling today that bothers them or that they want to improve on and they enjoy. They kind of do that, and there's no real direction. There's no real strategy. And that's where you really need someone to guide you. Now, of course, there are a lot of guitar teachers out there in the world, and I don't know how else to say this without saying it bluntly, but most just don't have a freaking clue. They just don't have a clue. Not about playing guitar, but about what it takes to train someone else that's not you to accomplish their goals, overcome their challenges, diagnose their problems, and get to the root causes, and motivate them and keep them engaged in the process of learning and overcoming those things. This is all very, very important, and I mean, there are some really good teachers out there for sure, but they're rare. That's not as common as people think, and there are very few sources online that are really, really reliable in helping people to take that path that's going to get them where they're going. There's sites like your website that helps people to do that, but there just aren't that many around. So people have to not only get the help they need, but then be cautious in where, who is that person or where is that source, and how reliable is that to me? How relevant is it to me? And am I going to have the support I need to put it all together? And that's really, I think, the key aspect. So I didn't have that in my teenage years. I got some of that later in my 20s, but I floundered for a long time because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have access to those kind of dependable resources or someone to coach me through that whole process.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, very cool. And I remember from my own experience back when I started taking lessons with you, I came to you with these same frustrations of not being happy with the rate of my own progress, and you made me aware of all those things. And now that I am aware many years later of these things, and now that I hear you talk about them again, it makes even more sense to me why these things apply to a lot of guitar players and how they can be used to break past such plateaus and frustration. Mm-hmm. So everybody watching, pay attention. Can you talk a little bit about some of the guitar practicing mistakes that you were making back when you were learning to play guitar that now you realize were slowing down your progress?
Yeah, there's. I could talk about this for a long, long time. Made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I'll focus on two mistakes. The first big mistake was not actually my fault, because I didn't. When I was a kid, I didn't have access to a teacher. I didn't have any clue who a good teacher was anyway. I didn't have the money at the time, so it was a problem, but it wasn't something I personally could have done something about at that time. I think that really what I tried to do is I tried to get organized, because I'm not by nature a highly organized person, or at least I wasn't then. I'm a little bit more so now. But I thought, you know what? I got to get my stuff together. I have to rely on myself. There's no one around really to help me, so I got to do this on my own. And I thought that I need to get disciplined. And my only understanding of discipline at that time was what I thought discipline meant, like, I don't know, in an army or military sense of, you start here, you go to the next step, you go to the next step, you go through this linear process of going from the beginning to the end, and you work through that process until you finally get all the way through it. So that was something that I tried to do, and I would take a topic and just focus on that linear process. And that did help to achieve some things, but then later I realized I have these huge holes in what I know, the skills that I have, what I can do, and how I can apply them. So I never really worked more broadly in saying, okay, these are the entire sets of skills that I really need to have. And I need to not only develop each one of those individual skills and make them all grow, but they need to be tied together. Because it doesn't help you to understand about music theory and then not be able to apply it when you're improvising and apply it fluently. It doesn't help. Okay, it might help you if you're taking an exam in a music theory class, but it's not going to help you in real life guitar playing. Another example is if you can develop your guitar speed and work on playing more and more difficult things, playing faster, whatever, but if it comes time to, again, improvise or to compose a guitar solo or a song or record something in the studio or play something live, it doesn't matter that you can do this cool arpeggio or you can play fast or whatever in your bedroom. This just doesn't matter. It only matters what happens when you're in a situation, whether it's recording, performing, composing, improvising, whatever. What happens if those skills aren't all tied together? They're not. You haven't been able to apply them, and they're not integrated together. Basically, what you have is a bunch of individual skills that are useless. Okay, and you see this all the time. You have players that have some skills on this level, but when it comes to real life playing, they only play at this level. And it's just so common. And that's because people worked on individual elements of their playing, but didn't work on tying them together, didn't integrate them, didn't apply them, have gaping holes in something else. So now they have strengths that are here and weaknesses that are here, and the weaknesses are dragging down all of these strengths. So they're not so strong anymore when it comes to real life. The big mistake for me was not realizing all of that in my earlier years, and it wasn't until maybe my mid-20s that I sort of had a clue that I'm on the wrong track here. I've been taking the wrong approach for the last dozen years, and I'm not really as good as I think that I am, or that I thought that I was, because I've got this skill that developed well, this skill developed well, but when it comes down to it, you're standing on a stage, you're improvising, jamming with your friends even, I just can't tie it all together in the way that I just assumed I would be able to. So for the next few years, that was a big goal of mine, was to integrate the skills together. I actually didn't focus as much on trying to play faster and trying to learn more new things. It was just about tying it all together so I can play in real life to a level that's close to where I can play in isolation by myself in my basement or whatever. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Very useful stuff. Thank you. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this interview, make sure to check out other interviews that I've done with other top-level guitar players on the topic of practicing and the methods they used to become great guitar players. Go to this link right here, check out all the interviews there on that page, and apply the concepts in them into your playing and practicing to become a better guitar player a lot faster. Have fun playing and practicing guitar, and I'll see you in the next video.